Let me try that again. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Outstanding. All right, good. I get the mute button on the Zoom, but there's also a mute button on my microphone, so sometimes I'm doubly muted. Oh, and this is a good lesson moment for everybody in the class. It's fun for me when people laugh at my jokes. And if it gets down to that end of the grading portion of the class, and I have to decide whether to give somebody that extra half a point or something to move them up to the next grade, if I remember that they always laughed at my jokes, there's a good chance that all right, that may be unethical, but anyway, it's tough with Zoom because nobody wants to make too much background noise. So everybody got their mic muted. So if you're going to laugh at my joke, you can press the space button and it will temporarily unmute you and you can laugh at my joke. And then your face will light up with like a green circle around it on my Zoom screen. And then I'll know who it is that's laughing. All right, that's enough belaboring the jokes. I think I have the screen share turned off right now. And you can see me, and there's like a whiteboard behind me, and I can write on the whiteboard, and you might be able to see what I write on the whiteboard. Okay, it's perfect. I've been using Zoom for a long time, and I'm not going to say that I'm good at it, but I've been using Zoom for a long time. And one of the things that I know is that I often think I'm talking about something you can see, but I'm not showing it to you. That's something I've learned many, many, many times. So if I'm talking about something and it sounds like I think you should see it, unmute yourself and say, hey, you're not sharing the screen, or hey, we can't see the whiteboard because there's a glare on it, or something like that. Just so I know, if we have feedback, then then it just makes it much easier for me. So with that said, I'm going to go back to the screen share for just a second, if I can find my mouse. All right, so now I think you can see the screen. It's got that fancy countdown timer. You guys can hear the audio of the countdown timer. Was that getting you psyched for class?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So I use music to affect my own personal mood. And so I have a playlist that I listen to just before every lecture starts. That's been the same playlist for a while now. And I use it to get my mind in the right focus and to get ready to appear to be excited, especially on videos, so that you might appear to stay awake. And last time I taught a Zoom lecture, it was at 8 o'clock in the morning and nobody had their cameras turned on. I'm so happy that at 11 o'clock in the morning, people have gotten out of bed and they've decided they can turn their camera on, because I like to look at your faces while I'm talking also. So today we're going to talk about manufacturing and what is manufacturing. But before we do that, let's see if this works. No, I don't want to play the video again. Stop. There we go. All right, so please unmute yourselves. Do you guys recognize what's going on here on the video?
BattleBots.
BattleBots, right?
Sure.
And of course, I chose the Byte Force clip because Paul, who's walking away here on the screen, he was a WPI student. You guys know that, right? If you didn't know that before, now you know that. Paul was one of my students, and I knew him for a long time. I actually got a chance to go to Paul's graduation party when he finished at WPI. And at that party, he was wearing a T-shirt, and it said "College, the best 7 years of my life" on the T-shirt he was wearing. And it was kind of a joke shirt, and we've all seen these joke shirts. But Paul and I were talking about it, and he admitted a little bit sheepishly that it did take him 7 years to finish here at WPI. It is because he was always working on projects that were exciting to him, and he was more interested in learning the things that he wanted to learn than he was than he was in passing classes on time, I suppose. And I couldn't say much about it because I also was a student here at WPI. You may or may not know that. And it only took me 6 years to finish. So I understand where Paul was coming from. Now I took a year off and went to Sweden as an exchange student. And I took a year and I went and worked as an engineer at a nuclear power plant while I was doing my 6 years. So I was pretty busy during my 6 years. But this time of teaching via Zoom, I mean, I think we're going to be doing a lot of this in the future, even after we've all gotten our vaccines and after we all get back to campus. But it can be difficult to stay excited. It can be difficult to stay engaged when you don't have. I know I always got some benefit from being able to go to the classroom and have that spot to be when I was learning about particular things. And anyway, I know that we're all, it's funny because the faculty get lectured to by the administration. And one of the things that comes up in faculty meetings all the time is the fact that we, the faculty, have to pay attention to how our students, you guys, are dealing with this COVID crisis and the remote learning. And we have to, and I just keep thinking, well, I hope somebody's telling the students to think about how the faculty are being affected by it too, because we're all together in this. And so if you see me looking like I'm flipping out or acting crazy, bringing up, I don't know, suggest I go see the counselors or the counseling service or something. Anyway, so but remember, we're in this as a team, and we're in this together. And I wanted to make sure that we all are thinking about how to best get something of value out of all the things that we're doing here in the class. So I guess that's my little spiel there. I got one more screen share slide here. So I do want you to pay attention. This gets tricky near the end. Does anybody know what movie that quote is from? You gotta unmute yourself and talk. I can't see it if you're in the chat thing or anything. Shout out.
Is it The Matrix?
Pay attention. This gets tricky near the end. It was from a movie. It was written on the blackboard in a classroom in the movie. One of my favorite movies. All right, well, maybe I'll do a movie contest, movie quote contest. You'll see quotes from movies in my slides occasionally. Anyway, pay attention. This gets tricky near the end. We're gonna listen to Jim Quick for just a second, and then we're gonna get busy. Can you guys hear
mental
Jim?
fatigue, right?
Yep.
Brain fog. How many people feel like you have mental fatigue, right? Brain fog. Sit the way you be sitting right now if you're totally engaged with what I was saying. And don't get lazy on this. You sit the way you be sitting, right? Because a lot of you get more energy, you sit up. Because here's what you do. You don't have fatigue, you do fatigue. You don't have brain fog, you do brain fog. And so part of it is when you're slumped over, you collapse the lower third of your lungs, and the lower 1/3 of your lungs absorbs 2/3 of the oxygen. Is oxygen important for your brain? And that's why a lot of
All right, in the participants thing, I think I got that open now. I can look at it. In the participants thing, there's a raise hand button, I think. Is there a raise hand or is there a thing? There's a raise hand button. Okay. Raise your hand if you're sitting to learn this material. Looks like everybody's sitting. No, there's a few people not sitting. Raise your hand if you're sitting. So one of the things I do when we're in a classroom in this situation is I make people stand up. So if you raised your hand, if it's convenient, now if you're driving And you probably shouldn't be driving and going to class at the same time. But if you're driving, don't do this. But if you're not driving and if you can do this, please stand up and take a deep breath. Okay, so you know at the end of the term, we have those form things that you fill out to rate how well I teach the class and how good of a job I do teaching the class. You can wait until the end of the class and fill that out if you'd like to. But if you want to see something different in the class before the class is over, you should communicate that with me and tell me about it, and we can make adjustments, or maybe we just show you how to get that information outside the class. So everybody's standing. One of the things that people have complained about in those end of the course evaluation forms, they did this years ago. And this little part of this first lecture is my attempt to fix that complaint. People complained that it's an engineering class and he talks about business during an engineering class. And so I had everybody stand up in the classroom. And I say, okay, sit back down if you have a trust fund that will support you for the rest of your life. I've been doing this for 9 years now, asking this question. And one time in 9 years, somebody sat back down. And I said, we all want to get to know you. So I said, the rest of us are still standing. That means we're going to need a job someday. And it might be nice if we get a job working for a company that's not about to fail. So as we talk about manufacturing and manufacturing engineering and manufacturing science in this engineering class, we will consider business aspects, because I want you guys to be able to work at companies that don't fail, and I'd like you to be able to help them to not fail. All right, everybody can sit back down now, whether or not you have a trust fund. But if you do, I've got some ideas, and maybe we could work out. No, never mind. Another one of those jokes that you should hit the space bar and laugh about. Okay, so we're going to get out of the class what we're able to put into the class. I would like to, I'm going to turn off my screen share. Stop. Turn off my screen share. You guys can put your hands down if you want to. I'll move you up here at eye level. Okay. I would like to know why you're taking this class. I'm going to call on some people. So let's see. Actually, who would like to go first? I will give you the opportunity to self-choose who would like to go first.
I can go first.
All right, go.
Sam.
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fabulous.
I'm taking this class because it seems like a really interesting class, and also like if I know how to make a part, like let's say you engineer something and it takes 20 steps to make. Like, yes, you may have engineered something, but you're doing more time to make it than you are. Like, if it's more complicated to make than it is your engineering, like you. Okay.
Sam gives a nice rambling answer. You should know this, that Sam and I knew each other before he took the class. So Sam almost worked for me, except COVID shut us down. So he worked for me for a couple of weeks just before COVID made him go home. So you want to learn about making stuff.
Yes.
So that you can make stuff. Okay, cool. That was what I got out of it. Hey, there's a Ben. How many Bens are there in the class? Speak up, Ben.
Me?
Sounds like there's one Ben for now. Go ahead, Ben.
The reason why I'm taking this class is just because I think it would be interesting to learn milling and machining techniques, just to make stuff for fun on the side.
Cool. So Ben wants to learn basically the same thing Sam wants to learn about how to make stuff. But Ben specifically was talking about using milling and turning, right?
Yeah.
So using the machines that we have here in the labs. Lucas, why'd you take the class?
I want to learn how to make stuff, and also it was relevant to my major.
I had a friend that recommended this class with you, saying it was like super fun.
A
So I
friend
picked C term.
Fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was hoping code would be done.
So, all right. So, let's see. I won't do everybody. Do some people that don't have their camera turned on to see if they're still here. Will Kelly.
I was just super interested in the
Super interested.
class, and it was
Molly, why did you take the class?
I have some background on like CNC machining and whatnot, but to have like take an actual course on it, I think would help that a lot.
All right, cool. And I think, is there anybody that had as much different answer than what we already talked about?
I want to be able to walk into Washburn and not break anything.
Okay. We could wrap you with foam.
I'd find a way.
You'd find a way. Yeah, so I would like for you to be able to walk into Washburn and not break everything also. So I took ME 1800 as a student. I think it was my senior year. It might have been my junior year. So I took this class as a student. I got a C in the class. Pretty sure it was a gift. Pretty sure they gave me the C because they didn't want to see me take the class again.
C's get degrees.
Now, we all can recover from those things. I want all of you to get an A in the class. I don't believe that they will fire me if everybody in the class gets an A. So, but we got to do some things so that you can earn the A also. So, because all of you want to get a grade in the class too, there's probably not many of you that are just taking the class because you want to learn something. You also care about the grades. And so I covered this a little bit in the video I posted, and the Canvas site problem has been fixed. I will turn it on shortly after class today to get that up there. And sorry for the confusion about lab this morning. It's just so obvious to me because for years and years and years we don't do lab on the first day of class, especially if it happens before the first lecture, that I didn't even think of telling you that there wouldn't be any labs this week. So we won't, the times that are set aside for lab work, we're going to ignore that this week. We will start up with that on Monday next week. And depending on which section you're registered for, you'll have a different block of time blocked off, I think twice a week on your schedule. There should be two 2-hour blocks of time on your schedule that's for lab time. Now, and I don't know what the mix of the class is for people that are intending to be fully remote and people that are intending to come back on campus once we get back to the tech, whatever they call it, the green thing. Once they turn the thing green. And I honestly don't know when it is they're going to turn the thing green again. So we're prepared to go the entire term with all remote if we have to, but we don't want to do that. But at any rate, those times that are set aside on your schedule for lab, there will be an open Zoom meeting that you can join into if you have questions about the computer programming part of the lab. So we're going to be using CAM software, and you'll have some assignments to go through where you get to learn how to use the CAM software, and then there'll be a graded assignment that you hand in near the end of the term. I think it's about week 5 or 6, that demonstrates that you learned how to use the CAM software by doing the assignments that we give you. If you wait until week 5, when the assignment that you hand in is due, you will not be able to learn the material and complete the assignment on time, I predict, unless you're already really good at using CAM software. And if you are, great. But so I would make sure that you don't wait until the end before you work on that. Let's see, and the PLAs will be there live in the Zoom thing to answer questions and to help you out with that. There will be questions on the weekly quizzes. The weekly quizzes, there'll be 5 of them. They're going to start next week. They're going to be due on Fridays. There will be questions on the quiz that if you haven't done the CAM assignment for that week, you won't, it's highly unlikely that you'll know the answer to the questions. not going to say you won't know the answer. You might just, I don't know, you might be a sink of all the knowledge in the world, and it might just be floating around in your head. And as soon as you see a quiz question, you just know the answers. Every time I tried that, it never worked for me, but it might work for you. So it's possible. Let's see. So the weekly quizzes, there'll be questions with lecture content. There'll be questions with lab content. And on the Wednesday lecture time that's scheduled, I think it's called a conference on your schedule. On Wednesdays, we'll be back. I'm going to post a separate Zoom link for each lecture. So there'll be a specific Zoom link for that, but it'll be like this Zoom classroom-y thing, and we'll be talking about lab topics. I'll probably occasionally be out in the lab with the camera, and we'll just see how that goes. This is the first term that we've tried to do that, so that's something new this term. I've been teaching this class since 2006, and I don't think I've ever done it the same way twice, but usually the changes are small. This, with the uncertainty around COVID and the uncertainty about when we get back in the classrooms this term, this is the third major redesign of the class that we've gone through in a year. So if some things are a little bit disorganized, unorganized, that's just because I'm not very good at organization. And that's all on me. One term I said I was going to appear organized to the ME 1800 students. That was what I was going to win on the end of the term survey, was the question, where does the professor seem to be organized? And about 2 weeks into that term, I realized I had to actually become organized if I was going to appear organized, and I gave up. So please keep me on my toes. Don't feel ashamed to ask me the same question twice if you didn't get the answer the first time you asked the question. But if it's a question about the class, when the Canvas site's turned on, there's going to be a discussion forum in the Canvas site specifically for questions about the class and questions about the assignments, so that when you ask that question and it gets answered, the entire class can benefit from the answer and not just the person who emailed me. So please don't email me questions unless they're, unless it's something really super personal that you only want to talk to me about. Don't email questions like that. Post them in the discussion forum. All right, so we want to learn how to make stuff. We want to learn about manufacturing. I'm going to go back to my screen share. I think screen share. All right. You guys can see, pay attention. This gets tricky again.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So what is manufacturing? So the class is about manufacturing. What is manufacturing? This is the part where I want people to answer.
How it's made.
How what is made?
Like the TV show How It's Made. Anything on that is manufacturing.
Okay. You might see on the TV show How It's Made. Probably that's true. I haven't watched the TV show that much. My daughter loves it though.
It's the best way to waste an afternoon.
He's not wrong.
Cool. So, but what does it mean? So what if I told you that I own a manufacturing company? What would be the thing that came into your mind?
Mass production of parts.
So you'd think about mass production of parts. All right. What else would you think of?
Modifying or changing some sort of material or good to fit some other need.
So modifying material. What else comes to mind when we hear manufacturing?
I would think
Turning raw
about
materials
packaging.
into sellable goods.
The last one. Say it again. I didn't hear who it was. It was a male voice. Something about sellable goods. Can you say
Yeah, I said turning raw materials into sellable goods.
Turning raw materials into sellable goods. Okay, is that what you guys think? Is that manufacturing?
Something that's like standardized and has like a very specific set of steps.
Something that's standardized and has a very specific set of steps.
Yeah, so you get the same thing every time.
And it doesn't necessarily need to be raw materials. It could be another product that needs.
Can you guys see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Yep.
So mass production, modifying materials, turning raw materials into something that we sell. So we said standardized, so standardized processes for doing it. Standardized processes, turning raw materials into something that we sell by modifying them. So modifying the material, that's like a process, right?
Going from like the blueprint, like going from an idea to a physical object.
Go from, I call that the art. The blueprint is the art. And we go to the part, right? So the physical object is the part. The blueprint is the art, the thing that defines the thing that we're making. Now, does manufacturing have to be mass production?
No, I don't think so.
But we often think of mass production when we think of the term manufacturing, but no, manufacturing does not have to be mass production.
No, just because it's so common.
It is common, yeah. So, but it's not required to be mass production. Does manufacturing have to? Somebody said it doesn't have to modify a material or a raw material. I can't remember who said that. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, you could take like, I guess, like maybe we would take stuff from like Home Depot and need to change the threading on a metal pipe that we get from Home Depot. That would be, I guess, manufacturing. We're manufacturing our own part for something.
Okay, it would certainly be making, but I would say that the pipe you got from Home Depot was the raw material, I would say. So you guys know that, so you watched the news, seen like the TV news before, people? Most of us have seen the TV news. Have you ever been like watching the TV news and they say, and the manufacturing numbers are up this month or this quarter or whatever it is, right? Or the manufacturing numbers are down in this quarter. Did you know that McDonald's Corporation is a manufacturing company?
Oh, they make burgers.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they cook them, they manufacture them, right? So they're including McDonald's in those manufacturing numbers often when they're talking about that kind of thing. Actually, the McDonald's Corporation makes most of their money from real estate, not from hamburgers, but that's a totally different story. The people who own the McDonald's franchises make their money from hamburgers. Mass production, modified, or so could be mass production, but it doesn't have to be. We're modifying materials. Now, does it have to be manufacturing if we're taking raw materials and making them into something else? We're doing processes on raw materials to make something else. Does that in and itself make it manufacturing?
I think it depends on the viewpoint.
It certainly depends on the definition of the word manufacturing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say if you're making something.
I go through this exercise because I want you to agree that my definition of the word manufacturing is the correct one. So I'm trying to get you to tell me my definition by guiding the conversation, right? That's how we do this. So because if you believe my definition is the correct one, then, well, I have disciples and then we can go out and spread the word. I mean, Jesus only needed 12 of them. I think I need more. But we can do that. So I say that turning raw materials into something else by applying a process to them is making, but in and of itself is not manufacturing. It's only manufacturing. Go ahead.
Would you
I
say
think
that
manufacturing.
Oh, sorry.
What's that?
Okay.
I couldn't hear you. Natalie said something, but I couldn't hear her.
I'll let you go first, Quincy.
Okay, thank you. Would you say that manufacturing is taking a material and applying a specific set of steps to it to reach an end?
I would say that is making.
Okay.
It takes another thing to make it. In making and manufacturing, you can use the same exact processes. I'm not saying that there's something on top of making that makes it manufacturing. It's the fact that you intend to sell the thing that you're making. So go ahead.
I was going to say it has to do with like finding the most effective and efficient, cost-effective way to make a product.
We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that when we talk about manufacturing, because we don't just want to sell the thing that we make in manufacturing. We want to be able to keep doing it, right? If we're just going to make something and sell it, it really doesn't matter how much it cost us to make the thing that we wanted to sell, does it? But if we're going to make something and sell it, and then make something and sell it, and then make something and then sell it, what do we have to make sure that we've done in order to get that to happen?
Just that the process is repeatable.
It helps if processes are repeatable. I'm not sure that it has to be, because we don't have to make the same thing every time.
Wouldn't it have to be cost effective so you're not hemorrhaging money?
It has to be cost effective. I think I know what the next slide says. I'm going to see if it does indeed say that.
How many people feel like you have mental fatigue?
It always wants to play the video again. All right, yeah, so we talked about what is making, what is manufacturing. Oh yeah, I got these other cool slides. Yeah, I remember these slides. So I would say that we started manufacturing a couple million years ago when people started specializing in the things that they made. So you guys can see this slide now. It's got some stone arrowheads. It's got a so what, anybody know what the picture in the middle is?
Is that like?
Is that a lathe?
It is similar to a lathe, but it's not a lathe.
Is it a loom?
No.
Steam engine?
It there may be a steam engine in the background of the picture, but it's actually a model. It's like Camelot. But this is a model of Wilkinson's first boring machine. Does anybody know who Wilkinson was?
The name sounds familiar.
So does anybody know what a boring machine is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a boring machine is, well, I guess my daughter must have one in her room, because every time I see my daughter, she tells me she's bored. Yeah, I saw that Sam laughed, but he forgot to unmute himself.
Oops.
So a boring machine is a machine that's designed to make a hole. In manufacturing, when we make a very precise diameter hole, we call that process boring, or hole making sometimes. But and so Wilkinson's boring machine is the machine tool that caused the Industrial Revolution to happen. Wilkinson was Watt's partner, and it was after Wilkinson made this boring machine that they were able to manufacture steam engines cost effectively. So before this, they had to basically hand fit every piston in every cylinder in a steam engine, and it was very fine work. And with the boring machine, they were then able to make holes that were straight enough so that they could mass produce steam engines. And that's what caused the Industrial Revolution to actually get into gear and to happen. So there's a sort of a key moment in manufacturing history. Anybody know what the far right picture is there?
A dragon?
It is the Dragon space module, and that's there because one of my former students at the time I made this slide was he was the head engineer in the propulsion systems for the Dragon space module. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we can connect our ancestors making arrowheads all the way through our people making space travel. So manufacturing, but manufacturing is making stuff that people want to buy. And if we're going to do it repeatedly, we need to understand what value is. So what is value in manufacturing? What does the word value mean?
Is value like something that we perceive, our perceived like worth of something?
So value is the perceived worth of something, exactly. In this case of manufacturing, who determines value?
Consumer in the market.
Right, the customer, the consumer, the market, the customer determines value. What's the value of a $100 bill?
$100.
Says who?
The government.
But the dollar fluctuates though. So it could be $100 one day and it could be $100.01 the next day.
Could it?
That'd be compared to the other day.
Like back when we used to do lectures in person, and then even earlier, back before I got married, I used to do this in class with an actual $100 bill instead of a picture of a $100 bill. After I got married, I didn't have as many $100 bills in my pocket anymore. But it was a good trade. It was a valuable trade. So a $100 bill is worth $100. The question, and what Sam brought up, was the fact that $100 isn't always worth the same thing, though. Right, a $100 bill is worth exactly what you're willing to give me for it if I'm willing to exchange it with you for that. That's all it's worth. What's the cost of a $100 bill? Anybody
Probably
know?
like a cent.
Yeah.
Maybe a half a cent.
Less than that.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit more.
Oh, 2 cents?
So the old $100 bills were about 7 cents to make. The new ones are about 12 cents to make. But is that really the cost of a $100 bill? So that's the manufacturing cost, amortized over a lot of $100 bills. But is that really the cost of a $100 bill? Why is it worth $100?
Because
the social perception, everybody agrees that it's worth $100.
Why is it worth $100 when you go to a different country with it?
Because the American dollar is something that other countries value.
Because
Right.
it's relatively stable.
Yeah.
It has been in the past relatively stable. Its value is all perceived value, though, right? Could $100 be worth nothing tomorrow?
Sure.
Probably not
possible.
tomorrow, but certainly.
We'd be screwed, but yeah.
Well, $100 will always be worth $100.
One of the things I always say, sort of tongue in cheek, is, you know, the $100 bill is worth $100 because of the 82nd Airborne, right? Where our economy grew up by fighting wars and by having a strong military. I'm not saying this is a good thing, but it is our history. So it came up like this. So, but cost and value can be very different, right? Now, what's the difference between cost and value?
I would say that cost is like a set amount it takes to produce an item, and value can fluctuate because it's
So value can
assigned by the
fluctuate.
consumers.
Value can fluctuate. Cost also can fluctuate, but it doesn't fluctuate based on the same things. And we call the difference between cost and value profit. Does that make sense? And you guys all, you've all used the word profit before, but now we're trying to, as engineers, we want to use words very precisely, especially in talking about the class, because if you understand my understanding of the words and I make the quiz questions, then you're going to do well on the quizzes, and then you're going to get a good grade and I get to give you an A. So we're all working together so that I can give you an A. So the first equation in ME 1800 is that value minus cost equals profit. And so we should write that down. Now, what's the first derivative of profit with respect to time? You didn't know this is a calculus class, did you?
Could you repeat that?
What's the first derivative of profit with respect to time?
Would it be income?
Derivative of value with respect to time minus derivative of cost with respect to time?
Yeah. So
Do like
it's the
income?
rate at which we make a profit. And since this is actually an engineering class and not a calculus class, we're going to approximate the first derivative instead of figuring it out. Is that everybody like that?
Yes.
So profit rate is value minus cost over time. Now you got to pick the time interval that matters to you when you figure out that profit rate. But profit rate is value minus cost over time. If we're going to work at a company that doesn't fail, what do we have to ensure about profit rate?
It's positive.
We always want a positive profit rate if we're going to work at a company that doesn't fail. And that is the key step in sort of understanding manufacturing. Manufacturing is making stuff that people want to buy. And if we want to continue manufacturing, we've got to maintain a positive profit rate. So we got just a couple minutes left before the end of the time slot here. So as we go through the class, there's, I think I said there's one group project we're going to do this term. We will form those groups sometime next week after the add drop slips and all that stuff sorts itself out. There is a lab kit. It's going to be available to order from the bookstore, whether you're on well, if you're on campus, you can pick it up at the bookstore, I guess. I don't know how that works. If you're remote, you can get it shipped to you by the bookstore. The kits will be delivered to the bookstore probably tomorrow, so they'll be available for sale by the beginning of next week. Everybody in the class needs to get the lab kit. It has the stuff that we're going to use to talk about the metrology part of the labs, and it has components in it that if you're coming on campus, as we get back to TechFlex, FlexText, if we get back to the green thing, then you'll have components in there that you'll use to make a thermoacoustic engine. If you do the entire class remote, when you are back on campus, you can come in and you can still make that thermoacoustic engine that we make in the lab. We'll set up some after hours times where people can work on that stuff to get that muscle memory. But we've gone out of our way this term to try to make sure that it's possible to learn all of the same material without having to be in the lab. But if you're in the lab, you'll get that added benefit of getting to experience your hands touching the machine, the field of vibrations. When we were working on figuring this out, we realized that what you really get by being in the lab that you can't get virtually is you get to hear things, right? You get to hear the loud banging noises when things go wrong. You get to hear the screechy noises when things are about to go wrong. You get to feel the vibration in the floor when things go really wrong. So you get those benefits by being in the lab, but you also get to smell the coolant, and yeah, that's pretty much what you get by being in the lab instead of being virtual. So, but we'll have those kits available. I'll send out an announcement to the class. I will start instead of the BCCing everybody in an email. I'm going to start with Canvas announcements being my main way to convey updates and new information to you guys. So you might want to turn on there's a notification thing so you can get notified when an announcement comes out. I'll try to keep it to about once a week. There'll be a once a week posting of what we're expecting to do this week and links to all the lectures and the materials. And I urge you to keep a list of equations that we discuss in class as we go through the term. Keep a sort of a note sheet or something, so that at the end of the term, when a problem comes up that you need to use math to solve, you can quickly go through your list of references instead of having to hunt through all of the lecture slides, and all the lecture slides and everything will be available on Canvas as soon as the Canvas site is turned on, which should be in a couple hours. The problem with the Canvas site was that there was 4 Canvas sites, and I forgot to ask them to merge all 4 Canvas sites into one. That just happened this morning, so now I can put the information in that one Canvas site so you guys can all get the same information, and I don't have to be responsible for making sure that you get all the same information. Anyway, automation. And as we go through the term, this week we're talking about what is manufacturing, why is it important? Next week we're going to talk about quality. We're going to talk about the process of going from art to part. And we're going to talk about the science of manufacturing. In the third week, we're going to talk about how to create mathematical models to model our manufacturing processes. In the fourth week, we're going to talk about design. Then after we get through with design, we're going to talk about the cost and value. We're going to come back to this question of profit and economics of manufacturing. In the sixth week, we're going to talk about the future of manufacturing. And at the end of the class, we're going to talk about designing safety systems. And so we will talk about safety in the lab portion of the class, and we'll talk about lab safety in the lab portion of the class. But it's at the end of the class that we're going to talk about the design of safety systems, especially safety systems in the manufacturing world. So that's what I had for today. I will stay on for a few minutes. I'll end the recording. I'll stay on for a few minutes if people have questions or something they want to go over. Let me see if I can find the Zoom button to end the recording.
So our first lab will be next week?
Yeah, next week we'll do our first lab.
Okay.